Alright guys, Fuller coming to you with another video. I hope everything is well. I just want to piggyback off of Black Mind's video. Shout out to him. He did a video about Islam, Africa, and black people. And I thought it was like very, very informative, basically. And it was very, very much straight to the point. I kind of just wanted to piggyback off of like some of the things that he brought into the limelight in the video, because there's, I guess you can say there's two groups of people that are against Islam. The first group of people are just the West in general. The West being Europe, and for the most part the United States of America, and I'm talking about the Caucasian part of America. Mostly they're against it. I'm just gonna be honest, and I know this is gonna sound very harsh, and this is gonna like maybe rub people the wrong way, but when you have created a moralist society disguised as a society with morals and integrity, it's sometimes easy to follow the lead of the creators of that society. So, for example, you may have like different ethnicities, ethnic groups, be it Hispanic, be it Black, be it Asian, who will pledge allegiance to the American flag in a way that is like, okay, I'm willing to live and I'm willing to die by this flag. They'll do it in that certain way because of the simple fact that the image of freedom, liberty, and justice for all has been presented to them. However, they're only one police stop away from getting gunned down. And we've seen that recently. I believe it was. I try not to get involved too much with police shootings and stuff like that, because it's just really sad most of the time that it's still occurring. But, for the most part, a minority is only one police stop away or one hate crime away from being taken out of this world. You know what I mean? Like, that's just the reality that you live with living here, However, be it that it may, the image is always presented that this place is a place of justice, liberty, and equality, right? Now, granted, you can make a good material living here. You have to work very, very extra hard to do so. Very, very hard. In essence, you have to run a rat race. But it's really up to the person if they want to do it. But at the same time, you may run into obstacles. I myself have ran into those obstacles in trying to obtain loans to, further my business. You know what I mean? And also, you will experience that most of the time in the housing market, because unfortunately, housing discrimination is practiced. So, what I'm getting at is, you will see this. You will see this being presented. You will see America presenting itself as this to to the whole world, you know. But you have to understand the reality is quite different. I mean, even the cop who shot, I believe his name was Dante Wright or something. Even the cop who shot him said, instead of like having some sympathy for what he just did, he said, "Oh shoot, I think I shot him." He didn't necessarily, feel bad for shooting him. I mean, he had I believe he, allegedly meant to pull out a taser, but instead pulled out his weapon, So, in reality though, like, under, like, Islamic jurisdiction, they wouldn't like what would happen with that police officer who shot him. Because in Islamic jurisdiction, the family would either A, have a choice of blood money, or B, it's hasta la vista for that cop too. If they found it in their heart to forgive them, they can take the money. But if not, they're like for example, say if I had one of my siblings here, then all of a sudden, routine traffic stop, boom, cop kills my sibling. Under jurisprudence, Islamic jurisprudence, the family will have a choice. Like let's say I was the overseer of my sibling, one of my siblings. Let's say I was the overseer. I was caring for them. They would come to me and ask me, "Hey, do you want to accept money from the cop who killed your sibling, or do you want the cop dead?" Me personally, I would say I would want the cop dead, because of the simple fact that he would be capable of doing something again like that, and he may get away with doing it. So me, I would choose the second option. Be like, no, don't give me the money, just take him off the street completely and just end his life. That's allowed. It's eye for an eye. It's an eye for an eye system, which is fair. That's only fair. Because we have to understand that they're doing it intentionally. They're not doing it by accident. It's an intentional thing that they're doing. So yeah, I would say why not? So you have that group who is against Islam because of the what is looked at as harsh laws. Then you have the adultery law. Okay. For granted, it takes four people to see that, and it takes 4 people to see, and it also takes them to see penetration in order for any judgments to transpire. So you have for example, let's say I was married, or let's just take another couple. Let's just take another couple. The man, let's say the man is cheating on his wife, right? He's actively penetrating another woman. 4 people see that this is occurring, then it's hasta la vista for him. And this is a pretty good thing, but some points need to be made. Number one, it's darn near impossible for 4 people to see you unless you want an audience, unless you're trying to have an audience. That's the first thing. Number two, that is a good preventive measure against home wreckers, and also a good preventive measure against someone who may have to, now deny his deny children. Someone who will now have to say, oh well, those aren't my kids. Those aren't my kids, when they really are your kids outside of marriage. So these are good preventive measures. And again, it goes back to my previous video, like the manhood factor. It encourages manly things like horse riding, archery, I want to say sword play. Even as a matter of fact, although I box, I got like machetes, and I'm trying to learn the Haitian version machete fighting, because it goes into my way of life. It encourages chivalry. It encourages being an old school person. So, these things are completely against the status quo. These things, because in the society, we are kind of taught to be, docile, taught to be, how should I put it, bots, basically. This is what is presented, and this is not our natural way of being. So you have that group, and they come in the form of, tele-evangelists. They come in the form of, let's say, just normal people, normal people that you see on the street and stuff like that. You see that, And then there's another group of people, and those group of people that are against it are mostly Black Christians, and also people, not just Black Christians, but just Black people across the board who are either A, involved in Christianity, or B, part of the Black conscious movement, right? And then most of the time you find that the information against it comes from European sources. This is what occurs a lot of the time. However, upon looking at it, and upon like me, although being born into the faith, me coming from a traditional West African Muslim family, I was always encouraged to read. Upon looking into the faith more, I realized that it was the unifying factor in many instances, even if it meant going against other so-called Muslims. For example, you had one of my great people from my lineage, Suleiman Bali, Rahmatullah alayhi. The Moors were trading in slaves, and Suleiman Bali took it upon himself to fight them. And also the fact of the matter is those Moors were being financed by Europeans. So Suleiman Bali, he took it upon himself to fight those Moors, to smash them. And on top of that, he had another guy, Abdul Qadir Khan, rahmatullah, who did the same thing. Now granted, these are black Africans, jet black. When you look at the description of Suleiman Ball, he in essence he sounds like an athlete. They say he was they say he was tall, well built, and jet black. That's what they say about his physical description. And on another note, on top of that, a lot of the quote unquote Arabs had the same description who were around the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu salam. That includes Umar, that includes Ali, that includes Ubaidah ibn Samit, that includes Abdul Dar, that also includes Jabir. I believe Jabir also had that description. Most of the descriptions you'll hear about the men around the Prophet alayhi salatu salam, not all, but you'll hear either like jet black or dark brown from the classical sources. So, and then the Prophet himself, alayhi salatu salam, I was listening to something, and he himself, I'm not going to say that he was black, but I'm also not going to say that he was white either, for the simple fact that he had French braids. I was talking to my friend last night, and I asked him, what kind of hair did the Prophet have when he, alayhi salatu salam, when he braided his hair? And my friend responded, his braids probably look like Iverson's, the basketball player, Allen Iverson. And I'm like, yeah, that's fair enough. That makes sense. He also wore what we call the do-rag as well. Alayhi salatu salam. Now, the reason why most of the conscious community is against Islam is because they look at it as, Africans becoming Arabs or Arabized. When the Arabic language itself is basically a Semitic language in the same vein as many Ethiopian and Eritrean languages, same origin. So if these languages are the same origin, and these languages in Ethiopia and Eritrea are African, can you really say that it's you're becoming Arab in regards to that? And usually most of the time I don't speak on this because one thing about me, it's not my duty to convert people. It's not my duty to invite them. It's to you your way, to me my way. But if you have questions on it, I'll be happy to answer those questions. And I'll be happy to clear up any misconceptions which are given. Now granted, I'm not saying the system itself is perfect. The practitioners of the system itself are not perfect. I will say that. Okay? I mean, do I agree with Boko Haram blowing themselves up? No. But I also understand it's probably not them. It's probably not the local population who's doing it. It's a bigger picture. But that's another video in itself. But another thing too that you will hear that the conscious woke community will have against Islam is the enslavement aspect. But again, you ask them about you ask them, okay, you say that Muslims were enslaving other Africans, but those pagan Africans were enslaving other Africans as well. It was, I'm not saying it's right on either side, but it was a two-way street. And most of the time when they did it, it was just, in essence, survival of the fittest. It had nothing to do with religion. It had to do with the preservation of their tribe, since those European slavers supply and demand was so much. Because you have to understand, Portuguese, the French, the British, and the Dutch had major colonies in the Western Hemisphere. So free labor was needed in order to tend to those colonies. And they don't care where it came from in regards to tribe or religion. But then they started to care where it came from, because there's a couple of incidents I want to bring to mind. In the East Africa, in the East Coast of Africa, you had those Arabs. I'm talking about the Aryanized Arabs who were dealing in slaves. And a lot went to Iraq, what we know today as Iraq. What did those slaves do though? They revolted as well. They kicked it off. It's called the Zanj Revolt. And if I'm not mistaken, that was the first Black Republic, even before Haiti. I have to do my research more, but I think that it was the first Black Republic. It's called the Zanj Revolt, where you had these African slaves kick it off against Arab slavers in Iraq. So that's an instance where you have a Muslim revolt, a Black Muslim revolt at that. Now we take it to the other side of the West. We have a couple of incidents that resulted in uneasiness about Muslims. One of the incidents is in Brazil. You had the Bahia revolts. And this was a multilingual, multi-ethnic revolt. You had Yorubas, Hausas, Mandinkas, Fulas, all trying to gain their autonomy through armed struggle. I say this, I give the multi-ethnic factor for the simple fact that it shows that Islam can help in consolidating that. Because as it stands right now, you do have the African who doesn't like you have the Black African from the continent who doesn't like the Black African who is from America, or you have the African from the Caribbean who doesn't like the African from the continent, or you have the African from the Caribbean who does not like the Black African from North America. This is all consolidated if Islam is done right. It's all consolidated. You don't have these issues. And then you have another incident in history. You have the Haitian Revolution, and believe it or not, you had Muslims on the front line of that revolution. Two of them, kind of were the forerunners to that revolution. You have Imam Makandal, and you have Dudi Bukman, rahmatullah. May God have mercy on them both. Now, Makandal, he was a herbalist. He was a what we call a marabu. He was a holy man, meaning that he had special powers. Duty Boukman was along the same vein. He had the same thing going on. They were both Muslims. Both kick-started the revolution. Toussaint Louverture and Dessalines were the finishers of the revolution. Now, granted, it was a multi-ethnic, or I should say multi-tribal revolution. The French, when they killed some insurgents, saw that there was Arab papers that were prayers in those insurgents. So you look at that and you see that this was a unifying force, in that you also see that the spiritual aspect, because you had the Boy Kaiman ceremony. You saw that Islam actually accommodated these things because it had to do with it. Upon looking deeper into it, but many people won't, you will find, and I can say this from experience even, that there are certain esoteric aspects of Islam that cannot be spoken about on camera really, but can lead to causative factors in that what you do in that world can lead to certain things happening in this world. I can attest to that in some of my experiences, which I won't talk about on camera. But then you have to understand another factor that factors into it. And I'm kind of segueing a little bit, but Eritrea, that beautiful country, that Red Sea country, it was actually Muslims who sprang the idea of independence. It was actually a Muslim by the name, I think his name was Hamid Idris something, that shot the first bullet at the Ethiopians. Now, granted, at the time it wasn't the EPLF, it was the ELF. But then the EPLF consolidated most of those groups. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Now, when you look at these factors and things like that, when you look at this and realize that a common system has led to revolutions, has led to liberation of Black people, you have to ask yourself, okay, why do these conscious Negroes buy into what their oppressor says? You have to ask yourself that, But another factor that a lot of people dislike about Islam is the self-control factor that goes into it. Because, everybody comes up short. Everybody has their shortcomings. We understand that. But when you're, and I hate to say it, and people are gonna bash me for this, but when the West allows you to be promiscuous, when the West allows you to be, how should I put it? Basically lewd, have lewd behavior when the West allows you to, then most of the time you're going to indulge in it. And a lot of times with these conscious communities, they actually preach this quote unquote higher knowledge stuff, but they're some of the most lewdest people that you can meet. Without saying any names, a lot of them, I hate to keep on repeating myself, but a lot of them have rode the cock carousel. And there have been a lot of willing cocks to provide the ride, So it's just as promiscuous as a brothel. Whereas, in a traditional African Islamic setting, the goal is to get married and build families, build strong families, build educational families, and actually learn new skills. And those skills don't necessarily just have to be in the Islamic sense. They can also be skills that are secular, that are going to benefit you. For example, like teaching your kids how to code, or teaching your kids something like some architecture or agriculture. Like those things are encouraged. So with that being said, Black Mind was spot on, and I just wanted to add my contribution to what he was saying, because he has a brother that 100% agrees. Black Mind is he's a black descendant who came up in America. And me, I'm a continental African, but still I resonate with mostly all of his videos, because we pretty much have one common factor, and that common factor is Islam. And so you see that it can work because of the simple fact that there's certain neighborhoods I can't even go into without a vest on or a or my peacekeeper, for the simple fact that I come from another neighborhood. Now, if Islam was incorporated into that, it would be like, yo, it's our brother from the other side of the track. Come on, man, break bread with us. So that's where the solution comes from. But unfortunately, the fabric, the way it's set up right now, this solution will not be televised, and it will not be pushed, because this solution would mean this solution can potentially mean less people in prison, less murders, less black on black violence, and things of that nature, less single parent households as well, since marriage is heavily promoted. But anyhow, I'm just going to end this video. I'm going to be back with this Ramadan, I'm going to be back with some boxing videos. I will be covering the fight this weekend with Demetrius Boo Boo Andre. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go to the fight because I think the tickets were invite only, and you had to have a membership to the casino or something like that. It was something of that effect. So I won't be able to go to the fight. So I'll just cover it from here, do my reaction, and that will be that. But throughout Ramadan, I may drop like more videos that come to my mind in regards to, the current climate and just reflections, you know what I mean? But anyhow, that's all I got for now, guys. Fula signing out. Njadam.